I'm another small fish in the ocean, here to talk about what an entrepreneurial journey in biotech would look like. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, the organizers did a great job so far putting the session together. I've very simply titled my talk, Starting a Startup. And like Tara was saying, I was trying to see, okay, what could I share with the people here that would be career advice? And I decided the simplest thing would be to talk about what led me to starting my own company and let you take whatever conclusions you can from that. So, for today's talk, I thought I'll talk about three key acts or experiences I had in industry, which led me to found our company String, and then leave you with three messages since I have the privilege of wrapping up this session. For the scientist in the audience, here's the abstract of my talk, right? So like many in the room, I forayed into industry with BTech in Industrial Biotechnology from Anna University. So at that point, it was one of two places in India that gave you an engineering degree in biotech. Soon after that, like most of the people in my class, I left to the US to get a PhD in molecular biology and biochemistry. My PhD work was more in protein engineering and de novo protein design. And after my postdoctoral work, I knew I was aligned more to work in an industrial setting. So, and fortunately for me, I had opportunities to work with three different startup companies at different stages of their evolution: Gevo, Codexis, and Intrexon. And I'll talk a little bit about my role as well as what these companies do, so you can get a flair for what your contribution can be, as well as what kind of companies are out there, right? So the first company I started with is called Gevo. It's a startup that came out of Caltech in Pasadena. And our focus here was to take biomass and convert it into isobutanol using engineered microbes. Okay? So isobutanol is an excellent alternative fuel molecule, but it also has interesting applications in the chemicals as well as material space, depending on how you do the chemical conversion later. What I did at Gevo, for the most part, was tinkering around with bacteria and yeast to make sure that this conversion can be done economically and can work at scale. Okay? So how did I get started with Gevo, right? So soon after I finished my PhD, I was doing my postdoc, and I wanted to work with Frances Arnold at Caltech. And the way it worked with Frances Arnold, I'm sure many of you are familiar with her work. She is one of two people in the world credited with developing methodologies for directed evolution of enzymes. Okay? And to get into her lab, usually you should have your own proposal and come in with your own funding. So I wrote to her and she said, well, what do you want to work on? So of course I came up with my proposal, which she immediately completely triaged, right? So I came up with another one, which she also triaged, and I came up with another one, and we did this for about 8 months. And then she said, well, come down for an interview. So I think persistence helps sometimes. And when I went down for an interview, she said, you can join my lab as a postdoc, or I'm starting a company, and you can come on board. I was foolish and wise enough to jump at the opportunity. Because the company, I would be number 3 at the company, and it was funded by Vinod Khosla of Khosla Ventures. So people who are not familiar with Khosla, he was the founder of, one of the founders of Sun Microsystems, a very successful Silicon Valley entrepreneur, venture capitalist. And in the early 2000s, he said, we can solve the energy problem, and I'm going to place my bet on 10 companies in the biofuel area, one of which was Gevo. So I think people before me have said, create your opportunities, you never know when the door will open, right? For me, it was the best learning experience coming out of my postdoc and stepping into industry. The time I spent at Gevo, I got exposed to all aspects of building a business: technology development, thinking about commercialization, strategy, taking a product to market, IP, building a lab. How do I hire people? Who do I want to hire? How do I train these people? Right? Lab safety. As a PhD, you hardly think about safety. But as you're trying to scale up a biofuel molecule, you need to constantly think about safety in all aspects, right? Thinking about scale-up issues when you're engineering your microbes in the lab. Things that, unfortunately, the education system that we have today does not train you for. You have to do some amount of on-the-job learning for that kind of thinking. And I was lucky enough I could get that from Gevo, right? Gevo was a successful startup. We built the company to about, I was with the company till they reached about 50, 60 people, and they'd gone into pilot scale. At that point, it was too expensive to stay in LA, so they moved the company to Denver, at which point I decided to move up to the Bay Area and join another startup, a slightly bigger startup in a more advanced stage of evolution called Codexis. Codexis had a core technology for engineering enzymes. Right? Funnily enough, Codexis came out of Maxygen, which was started by Pim Stemmer, who was the other person who's credited for directed evolution technology. An amazing technology, and Codexis had an efficient process set up to evolve enzymes. And they had, till that point, used it only in the pharma area. And just at the time that I joined them, they had partnered up with Shell, Royal Dutch Shell, the gas company, to scale cellulosic ethanol as a second-gen fuel molecule. So I joined Codexis as a technical lead on the cellulosic ethanol project and basically helped the transition of the team, the company, as they moved into the bioindustrial area. So what I did for the most part was, spearhead the technical development and contribute on the other areas that I had expertise in. Funnily enough, at the Codexis Shell project, we delivered on all our technical milestones, right? We hit it way out of the park. We delivered above and beyond what Shell had set as milestone for us. In spite of it all, Codexis and Shell parted ways in 2012, right? We laid off about 70% of our staff. And as a technologist, as a scientist entrenched in the technical aspect of it, we often miss out the very basic point that for a business to succeed, the strategy, the technology, and the business have all to be in sync. And if one of those parts don't play very well, there's no deal at the end of the day, I guess. But Codexis has recently signed a deal with GSK, and it's coming out of the trenches, because I'm a strong proponent for their technology. At the end of my stint with Codexis, I truly believe that you can take any protein and evolve it to do what you want it to do efficiently and quickly using this process. So after Codexis, I got pulled into another company called Intrexon, also in the synthetic biology space. Intrexon was slightly different in that they had a neat way to put pieces of DNA together to build modular DNA libraries, huge combinatorial libraries of DNA. And what was interesting about their technology was they had this working well before people started thinking about biobricks. And Intrexon, similar to Codexis, was largely in the therapeutic space, but they were a much bigger company. They have about 5 commercial divisions at that point all over the US, and they wanted to start an industrial products division around this technology, and were looking for strategic partnerships. So how I got started with Intrexon, my mentor from Codexis moved to Intrexon, and when there were interesting projects that came up in Intrexon, he pulled me in, and my role there was slightly different. I worked with the technical team, but I also worked with the business development team and got to develop projects that we would then sell to strategic partners. And great company. The company recently had a very successful IPO as well in 2013. So lucky enough to work with different kind of startups at different stages that were all taking bio-based products to the market. Great experience, but it also highlighted to me that there were a lot of inherent gaps in the current product development life cycle. And based on my experience, I had a lot of ideas as to how you could address these gaps, right? I am a strong proponent of biotech, and very much like the speakers that are before us, I know we can solve the problems in food, energy, health, using the technologies we have. So I said, well, let me give it a shot, see how I can go about doing it, and founded String. So we started String initially around better tools and technologies for genome engineering, whole genome engineering, and the company was actually founded in San Francisco. About a year into it, I decided to move back to India and up the challenge even more and say, hey, why not do it in India, set up the startup here, and I've seen some cutting edge work. Can I try to see if there's an osmotic effect here, maybe come back, see what I can do to the ecosystem here. And one of the other things is, at String, from the day we started String, we knew we wanted to focus not just on technology, but also on the application of the technology. So while our core, almost the hub of the wheel was the genome engineering technology, our spokes were going to be the application. And one of the big areas of interest was waste management, right? And if you think of waste, it's a problem that doesn't need much of an introduction, especially in India, particularly in Bangalore, unfortunately, right? So the question we are asking is, can we create a robust economic engine for waste management? Can we create sustainable solutions for managing this waste using our cutting-edge technology in biotech? And the solution we are working on currently is a cradle-to-cradle solution around managing waste, where we basically take the waste and convert it to monomers that can be used to make biodegradable plastics using engineered microbes, right? So that's the core process that we're working on right now. We are, as I mentioned, set up shop in Bangalore currently in early stages of R&D. So I moved back to India late last year. The lab's set up in Bangalore. We've hired our initial team. We're about 6 strong right now, and things are moving along well. I have to say it hasn't been hard. Every day has been a challenge, but it's also been a whole lot of fun, right? And I think a lot of the speakers before me highlighted is follow your passion, do what you like to do. I think it finally comes down to that, is if you can find your passion, then things become a whole lot easier. So what do I do at String on a day-to-day basis? I'm the co-founder and CTO of String. And on an everyday basis, what that means is I focus a big chunk of my time on the technical development, right? Focus on the key product, and through our collaborations, through our partnerships. Outside of that, I'm building the team, hiring the people, training them. And as speakers before me mentioned, ironically, we are here at Career Day, but very often it's been difficult to find the right people for the right roles. And outside of that, building, setting up infrastructure, and any other grunt work that's left over falls on my head, basically. So I wanted to leave you with 3 key messages, but then I realized I'm not old enough to actually impart you with any words of wisdom. So I'll just tell you what's worked for me and hopefully it would help you in your career paths. This is a cliche at this point, but for me, I had done work. I'd been trained in biotechnology from India. I'd done work in protein engineering, and actually when I would apply to Francis's lab, the whole idea of genetic circuits was coming up. But then once I started working at Gevo, playing around with these microbes, trying to get them to do what we want them to do, optimizing their internal networks, right? The networks within as well as their networks as a community, I realized that is something that really excited me. And then the other thing was, it also gave me a big itch for entrepreneurship, finding a need in society and developing a product that you can take from idea all the way to being on the shelf someplace, making it happen, right? And those are two things that I absolutely enjoy. And I have, like I said, every day is a challenge, but I think if you have the passion, it helps you get through those. The second thing that I would really emphasize is good mentors. For me, I have to say I've been extremely lucky to find some key mentors along the way. Be it my PhD supervisor, be it folks at Gevo, at Codexis, Intrexon, outside of work. At every point, I think the decisions that I made, as well as creating those opportunities that worked for me, helped because I had those mentors who, sometimes it's just about getting those thoughts out of your head, just bouncing back some ideas to clarify things, right? Find those mentors, keep in touch, and connect. And last but not least, like I said, create those opportunities, right? I feel like I was in the right place at the right time, but it also was a lot of hard work creating any of those opportunities. Right? For example, when I started with Intrexon, I didn't go in as a full-time employee. I went in as a technical consultant. And at that point, it was not very common for biotech companies in the Bay Area to have a technical consultant, right? Most of them came on as advisors on your scientific advisory board. But I talked them into giving me a consulting role. And what that helped me do was, it was the same cost for the company. But for me, it allowed me to, one, gave me a lot of financial independence later on, and two, it also gave me a lot of independence in terms of time, right? Because right around the time that I left Codexis, I was starting to think about what I wanted to do in terms of my own startup. And so it gave me that flexibility in terms of managing both. So create those opportunities. It doesn't have to exist before. It can be new paths that you create for yourself. Right? With that, I'll leave you guys, and if there are any questions, I can address it right away or later.